Today what we will do is try to understand about what exactly uh, what exactly we mean by what exactly is a Django, or how exactly we go with it. Okay, let me just open my notes. So I'll be walking you through notes and a bit of the running stuff also. But believe me, Django is something like uh, where the more we practice, the more better you become. Okay, so it's not just only about listening; you have to practice it in day-to-day basis. Okay, so let's just try on that. So HTTP. So this is my local system, guys. So yeah. So this is what we will try to do. Simultaneously, what I'll do is I'll project for this. Okay, looks like we have 3 chapters, but the 23 chapters are very much in depth, where we have to spend some good amount of time on a daily basis to get this covered. Okay, so without wasting our time, let's get started. So yeah, so the first question that is basically that always comes to us is what is a framework? Okay, so like we have been listening like Django is a framework, or Bottle is a framework, or Flask is a framework, kind of a thing. And when we basically try to understand what exactly is a framework, so I kind of pull this particular small snippet of information from internet space, which gives at least a bit of definition on what is a framework, with a small example stating as what could be done. Okay, so instead of going for the definition first, let's go for an explanation. Okay, so if I told you to cut a piece of paper with dimension 5 meter by 5 meter, then surely you would do that, right? So if you want something like a square, okay, what basically you do is you cut it with a scissor or something, right? Uh, but then I ask you to cut 1,000 pieces of paper of the same dimension, then you won't do the measurement 1,000 times. Obviously, you would make a frame of 5 meter by 5 meter, and then with the help of it, you would be able to cut 1,000 papers in less time, isn't it? Sometimes when you want to do a repetitive task, what you basically tend to do is you tend to make sure that you create a framework for it, a kind of a repetitive thing, and you just build on top of it. Okay, so what you did is making a framework which would do the same type of task. So instead of performing the same type of task again and again for the same type of applications, what you do is create a framework having all those facilities together in one nice pack, hence providing the abstraction for your application, and more importantly, many applications. So when I want to create something like a web service, or something like a web related application, my concern, or my basic idea is to have the websites or the web related stuff very much similar to what I do in all the in a day to day basis. Like say for example, I want to create a website. Django fits in there, like, because Django is a framework which has a set of tools which I can use in every other application that I'm building on. Right? I don't need to recreate the program every time. So framework is not a program or a module. Okay, or you can say Django is a module, but basically, what does that mean? It has a set of its own predefined functionalities and programs. You just use them, and you can create a number of applications with a similar structure. That is what is a framework. So that's what he was saying in the last line, if you remember. So instead of performing the same type of task and again for the same type of applications, what you do is create a framework having all those facilities together in one nice packet, hence providing the abstraction for your applications, and more importantly, many applications. Okay, this is what uh, we basically tend to do. Now, if you ask me what is a framework, so if I talk in a definition format, okay, a software framework in a computer programming is an abstraction in which common code provides generic functionality. Okay, so we have a common code, and that we'll be using that common code, which will be providing us some functionalities. Like we'll be seeing all those functionalities in some time, and can be selectively overridden. So it's not that you have to use all those generic functionality. You can very well use few, or you can ignore few, or specialized by user code providing specific functionality, or you can write your own customized code also along with that, which will help you across uh, to give you a specific functionality. Okay, so frameworks are a special cases of software libraries in that they are reusable abstractions of code wrapped in a well-defined application programming interface, yet they contain some key distinguished features that separate them from normal libraries. So this is what they do. Now, so software framework have these distinguishing features that separate them from library or normal user applications. So before I do that, yeah, am I recording this? Yeah, I'm doing that. Good. So one is inversion of control, which means in a framework, unlike in libraries or normal user applications, the overall program flow of control is not dictated by the caller but by the framework. So a very simple use case where whenever you use a framework, you the whole of the program is not run by the user. Okay, so the user writes some program and it works, that is okay, but the framework defines how the user has to write the program. So that is something like it's a more control. Okay, now default behavior. A framework has a default behavior. This default behavior must actually be some useful behavior, not series of no ops. Okay, the beauty, one more beauty is you can always go for extensibility. So if whenever you want to extend your behavior of your applications, you can always do that. And a non-modifiable framework code. So sometimes we don't want people to screw up the code. Okay, so you basically make sure that people don't touch the framework code. So that's what it is saying, non-modifiable framework code. So general is not allowed to be modified, but which side you can add your extensibility, like you can add your own modules to that, and you can very well go for extending that further. Okay, so this is a basic features of what is a framework. Okay, so ask me what are the various frameworks that we have. So when I talk about frameworks, I won't keep myself only to Python, but I so one Django is one of the framework which we already know. Bottle is one more framework of Python framework. Flask is one more framework for Python. We have Pyramid. Pyramid is again a very good framework again. So basically, there is one more framework related to the Google Cloud we call as Web 2, which is for Python. Again, so we have Odoo framework also, which is very much related to Python. We have Rails, which is for JavaScript related stuff, and we have Node.js, which is again a JavaScript related stuff. So we have a couple of all these things which are relatively very much the frameworks. Okay, so that you can start working on. But as far as our course is concerned, we'll be concentrating only on Django, not on all of these. And believe me, you learn one framework thoroughly, and you're good for all the other frameworks. Okay, now. So before I go to tell you what is the architecture of a Django, so let's quickly go ahead and we can quickly open up. Okay. So what I'll be doing is for our sessions, I'll be creating a batch first. Okay, and we'll be dumping all our stuff into that. Okay. So let me say this is our batch called batch 202. Okay. So just to make sure that we have a separate series for this, but prior to this, I created a few more series, but I'm basically going to go for this batch series. Okay. So we have batch 202. Okay. So before I do this, so hopefully, are there anyone here who is not from Sambas or my batch? Anyone else? Indrashika and Ravi. Anyone from outside batches? Hopefully, you all are from this same organization. So if you see, I just created a batch 202. Okay, so this is my batch. Okay, and I'll just show you how you can start using these editors and everything in a minute. But just for now, what I will do is I'll just close this project and save project as. Okay, so on my desktop, so if I go to my desktop, I'll call this as batch 202, and I'll show you how to do this again. So don't worry. And just that I'm making sure that we have dumped everything. Okay, cancel. So this is 202. Okay, yes. So this is our batch 202. Let's say open, add folders to the project, and we can very well quickly go to the documentation areas, and you can just add your stuff here. So currently we don't have anything in this batch area. So just to note that ours is a batch 202. And here, let me quickly go for, okay. Okay. So the first part, what we basically need to understand is what exactly Django does. Okay. So uh, what exactly is Django? Okay. So using Django, what we'll try to do is we'll try to build a kind of a server, web servers kind of a things. Okay, we'll try to create a web server or websites, if you can say. We'll try to create this. Okay, so the basic idea is we have uh, a HTML. Okay, so we call it as hypertext. Okay, markup language. Okay, so this is the basic idea that we are going to use to basically extend our write our web pages and everything. And along with this, we have a couple of things like CSS. We have JavaScripts. Okay. Um, we have nowadays we call about Angular JSS. Okay. We call about Node.js. Okay, so these are all the front end tools that basically help you for designing a particular website. But that said, these all things, if you just use only these things, what you come up with is a more or less a static pages. Okay, so now consider like you want a site which is more like a Facebook, or you want sites which are example more like Facebook or Twitter, or you can go for a few more sites like called as Big Basket. So these are all the sites that you basically want to go for. So what you can do is you need some dynamic site, and you need a way by which you can integrate all of these in one single place. So I want a site which is very much a combination of some static pages. So for example, say your contact page. Okay, so contact page is not dynamic, right? So you always get to see the contact page. So contact page should always be a static page. And after this, static pages, what you basically need to do is you can basically go for a couple of dynamic pages. Okay, so dynamic pages means the data keeps on changing, right? So the data keeps on changing. So we call this as the dynamic pages. And on top of this, you want to integrate it with some database. Okay, so some database is some thing that you basically want to go across. Okay, so this is what we are trying to achieve. Okay, at least in our Django session. So. Uh, Believe me, like the number of projects that we have in Django are huge, or you can call them as humongous. Like there are so many of the projects that we can deal with. So I'll be taking up one project for you, a small project to start with, and I'll be teaching you all the concepts around those. Okay, so it's just like Python only. So or it's more than Python also, but the basic idea is we will be trying to cover most of our concepts around here, such that we don't have the you can understand how to build a small site, and from there you need to work on. Okay, so that is what we'll be trying to do. Okay, now let us say I want to request a web page. So www dot let's say google.com. So you want to access this web page. So how does this work? So being a user from a browser, you made a request. Okay, and that request goes to the dot server or the root server. Okay, in the internet space. And here what happens is the resolving takes place, resolving of the we call it as resolving. So resolving is changing name to an IP. Okay, and after this what happens, you get the IP, you get to hit the server, that is google.com. And from here you get to the sub server. This is the local server, which is www. So when I say mail.google.com, mail is one of the servers. So similarly www is one of the servers. So in a domain called google.com, we have www, which is one of the servers, and which in the process, um, so request, and it gives you a response. Okay, the response is given back to whom? Back to the user. Okay, so this is how the whole request happens. So whenever somebody is requesting a page, whenever somebody says www.google.com, what exactly happening is it starts with the user. There is a request which goes to the root server. The root server resolves the name to IP. Then it goes to google.com. From there it goes to www. From there it goes to response, and from there it goes to the user. So this is how it works out. So this is exactly what we are trying to achieve. Okay, so um, so now let's quickly go over one of the diagrams to understand the Django architecture. Okay, so this is a simple thing to understand the Django architecture, and these are all the things that we are basically trying to achieve. Okay, now, so this is you. So basically, you are a user who is opening his browser. You opened your browser. It could be either a Firefox or a Chrome or something, and you hit a URL. So basically, your Django consists of couple of things. One of them is called the URLs. Okay, so URLs is one of the main areas as far as your Django is concerned. So, so your Django comes and hits the URL. So every server, um, so whenever you talk about the Django architecture, so whenever you talk about Django architecture, so the Django architecture consists of these things. So one is we have uh, whenever you hit, you have one of them called urls.py. So urls.py have all your URLs. Okay. So for example, say somebody is hitting like this. Okay, example. So when somebody is saying www.google.com/mail, let us say they're typing like this. So if my google.com server is a Django server, it should have a URL location which should state that, okay, it should state that it has a URL called as /mail. So first, it'll go to this particular URL. So example URL, let's consider this. Okay. this is my example URL where I have a domain and a mail. So when I type urls.py, all your URLs, example URL, so it says my domain and /mail. So this is how it works for us. Okay. Now suppose, again going back to the diagram. So once I find out that my URL is there, so it will go to the view. So this will go from the URLs to the particular views. So what are the views we have is, we have something called views.py. So currently views.py is nothing but simply functions. These are simple functions. Means when I say if somebody is hitting on the mail, what functionality you need to do. So we can take an example. So when someone is requesting mail, what to do? Okay, so you define a function for that, and that particular function is nothing but the views.py. Okay, so that's how you go for views.py. Next, from here, you go to the, you basically go from the views. Okay, and from views, you have this thing where you basically go to the templates, and you can basically go back to the browser. So what is the templates? So templates is nothing but set of pages, okay, which could be both static, which could be dynamic. So if it is a static thing, if it is like you are going for a website which has some static pages, so it's very simple. So you go to mail, you go to the URLs, you come to the view. So view says that okay, this is the function you need to do, and you need to go and render from some particular template. So it will take this template, static template, and it will go back to the user. So that is what it is doing here. So if I'm a user, if I'm hitting on a browser, the URL is verified in my server area. It goes to the views. Views are set of functions. So for that particular URL, you have to do particular functions, and from there it will go to the templates and go back to the browser. So this is what happens. But sometimes what happens is we might want some dynamic data. So if it is a static page, for say like if this is a static page, so static page will directly um, uh, okay, it will give a response to the user. So similarly, we have so that is a template, is a set of pages which are static and dynamic. The static pages give a response to the user, and we have some how about if I have a dynamic page? So when I have a dynamic page, so let us say for a dynamic page, I want to connect to a backend database. So to connect to a backend database for a dynamic pages, so maybe let's write it down. So let's say we want to connect to backend database, okay, to fetch some data, okay, or maybe files also, either way. So what happens is we have something called models.py. So models.py is nothing but your database relative. So you can create your schemas, okay, and you can create the definition of your databases here, okay. So the models.py basically goes for your databases, and it will just create that particular databases for us, okay. So that is how it is going to work, okay. And rather from here, once it goes to the databases, from the models, so model is nothing but model is a way by which the model defines what exact kinds of schema or definition that you need to define for your databases. So you basically, depending on how you wrote your model, it will associate itself to the particular database, okay, and it will pull that data, give it back to the models. Models will give it back to the views. Views will give it back to the templates, and templates go back to the browser, and we fetch it as a user. This is the whole process. Now, you might be seeing something called ORM here. ORM stands basically for Object Relational Mapper. Okay, so we'll talk more about it when we come to the advanced chapters. So we call it as Object Relational Mapper. Okay, so ORM. So ORM stands for Object Relational Mapper. So what it does is, this is one of the fundamental things as far as your website designing is concerned, that you don't want to depend particularly on the raw commands associated with a particular web page or something. So what you can basically go ahead and you can do is, you can very well go ahead and you can use the object relational mapper, which is treating your table as a Python object. So we'll do in-depth on ORM models, but just for the architecture's sake, if you understand, so I just showed you what are the components we have basically. So basically speaking, we have three components, right? URLs, views, and models. Okay, so you have uh, you have three components. One is URL, two is views, and three is models. Okay, so basically defining, so when we call about we sometimes call Django as the MVC framework. So what do I mean by MVC framework? So M stands for model, next is view, and next is controller. So which is a simple case where model is nothing but your databases, view is nothing but the functionalities that bind your models, and controller is nothing but how you control model and view. So most of your frameworks fall in three categories. Okay, so if I talk about it, so let me go back. So any queries here, guys? If not, any queries? Mahindra, Ravi, and Shiva, any queries here?
No,
It's going good. Did you understand the concepts?
yeah, sure.
Yeah. Okay. So if you basically notice, so is Django an MVC or a MTV framework? So if you go and Google across, you'll find a lot of different frameworks. So we call it as MVC, MTV, we call it MVA, MVP. So there are different things that come across with. So when I say MVC, MVC stands for Model View and Controller framework. Is a software architecture pattern for implementing user interface. The center component of MVC is a model. Okay, the model captures the behavior of the application. The model manages the data, logic, and the rules of the application. So the model is nothing but as we know that it's a database related stuff which manages data, logic, and rules of the application. So you can just copy this. This itself states that we are talking about databases. Okay. So when I talk about models, so the model manages the data. Data means the underlying data that we define in a database. The logic, how exactly the logic is, like whether it is a single table or whether it is a relational table, or is it a one-to-one relation or many-to-one relation or many-to-many relation. So that is kind of stuff that we do. And rules of the application. So what are the rules of the applications? So how we exactly need to go with it is something the models that we deal with. Okay. Now, a view can be any output representation of the information, such as charts of diagram, multiple views of information, and possible. So as I told you, a view, what it will do, a view is nothing but a simple function. Okay, and that function will tell you what exactly you need to do with the data that you're getting at a modular level. So if I go back here, so whenever you are hitting from a browser, the browser goes to URL. That is, you can call this as your controller. This takes you to the views. View will tell you to go to the model. Model will go to the database. So basically speaking, if I look at the bottom of picture, so bottom wise, what it is saying, model captures the behavior of the application. The model manages data, logic, and the rules of the application. So the model is basically the area which actually takes control of the whole thing, the data part that is actually sent to the views. So views will actually design, or it will decide what to do with this data, whether to put in a templates or what to do. So a view can be an output representation of the information, such as charts of diagrams. So your templates could be a simple HTML page, or it could be simple charts of diagrams. Multiple views of informations are possible. Now the controller accepts inputs and converts it to command for model or view. Okay, so if you see the controller, what controller does at the end? The controller accepts the inputs and converts it into commands for models or views. So it's as simple as that. So the URL that we basically spoke about is a controller which accepts inputs and converts it to commands for models or views. So that's what a URL does, right? The URL, whenever you hit an URL states that okay, where to do and what to do. Okay, so what to do or where to go. So that is basically called as a controller. So URL is nothing but a simple controller. Okay, so this is basically we call as MVC framework. Okay, or you can read further on this. So controller can send commands to the model to update the model state. It can also send commands to the associated views to change the view presentation of the model. So it's very simple. So either it goes directly to the model or it directly goes to the views. Either way, that's what he's saying. A model stores data and is retrieved to the controller and displays in the views. Whenever there is a change to the data, it is updated by the controller. Similarly, a view requests information from the controller fetches it from the model, pass it to the views that the view uses to generate an output representation to the user. So basically speaking, uh, you can say that a Django is an MVC framework. So you might get this question in interviews where people may ask you what exactly you mean by MVC framework. So that is the most common question that you get when especially you go for Python relative and a Django relative profile. So people ask you like what is the MVC framework or what is the MVA framework or what is the MVP framework. More or less these all look similar, but you can very well go ahead and look into this. Okay, so references. So these are your references, and you can also see like what does this mean by an MTV framework. Okay, so it's exactly looks the same. You can just read this, okay, in your as a homework for today. Okay, now the next question being why Django? Okay, so we'll quickly go over a couple of things which make Django very popular, and we'll go over that particular site too. So you can get to know like what Django does good for us. So Django is a MVC framework. So Django is a Python web framework designed for high security and dynamic website development. If you're looking to create a website with only a couple of pages, Django is probably not for you. So as I keep on saying, like if you remember in our Python sessions, we learned about something called CGI and databases, right? So if it is a single couple of pages or 1 or 2 pages, uh, excuse me. So you can basically go for CGA kind of a thing, but if it is something relatively a very complex website that you want to design or a site which needs a lot of data and everything, so I would surely recommend you people to go for something called as Django. So Django works. So there are many sites which use the Django framework for their sites. Few of the most popular ones being Pinterest, Instagram, Bitbucket, Mozilla support, and lot more. The list is not exhaustive. So which means I'm giving you an example where Django being already used for creating frameworks. So even if there is a particular talk like Google also uses Django in the backend. So Google uses its own framework, which is very similar to Django. Okay, so you can see some couple of sites like Pinterest, Instagram, Bitbucket, and Mozilla. So these are all the ones which basically take care of that. Okay. Deployment is breeze, which means Django sites are very stable. The framework backend is very good. The sites are well established to develop high traffic Django sites. Oh, and Django is fast. Django framework designed with efficiency in mind. The Django RAM is very good and performs few database lookups as possible. Okay, so one of the biggest challenges we have with most of the websites is how do we manage the data? And the beauty with the Django is we have this object relational mapper, which makes sure that we can kind of go ahead and we can do our work in a far better and far good way. Okay, so that is called as a Django is fast. Django scales. So when I say scale, like today you started with a small business, tomorrow you want to expand. So can you do that in Django? Yes, because Django is a literally a kind of a small framework. Like you can keep on adding stuff to that. So Django is very good. You can run any business on this framework. You can start from a very small business like running your own personal site to a huge public database like some social networking sites. Uh, And one more beautiful thing with Django is Django comes with it inbuilt admin part, which means, for example, say you are a website person and you want to build your own website. Okay, so for say like you build a website and let's consider one page like this. So So I'll show you what is Django admin tomorrow, but just a glimpse of how Django admin works. So every website have something called a Django admin. Okay, are the admin pages we call it. So what it does. So let us say we have a training portal. Okay, so we have a training portal, and what this training portal is trying to do for us is this training portal is trying to do some work which is very related to changing the training. So let's say I have a training called Django and Flask. Okay, and let's say I put this is my web page, and within the web page I have Django content. Like let's say I have $200, and for Flask, let's say I put something like $300. Okay, so just like that. Now you may ask me, okay, looks like Django is $200 and Flask is $300. Now, suddenly, at the middle of the night, what say the management took a decision on making Django as $500 and Flask as $200. So what happens? So Django becomes $500 and Flask becomes $200. Okay, so which in short means that uh, we have to make the changes. But being a person, I want this data to be reflected that very day, okay, or the very night. So I cannot wait for a database person or somebody to come in. So being a person from the management side, how do I know databases and HTML? But I may not know it. So we have this flexibility where we give access even to the managers or the high level people who have to make some decision making changes, and they do it right on fly. Okay, they can make the changes for the data which is there on the website right there. So that is what is called as the Django framework or the web framework. So that is how we do it. So the web page is Django. So the web page changes without the help of a database person or without the help of a web developer. You can still make some changes to your website, or you can still give control to your manager or maybe to the head of the organization to take some changes right on fly. So that is basically what is called as the web pages or the Django framework. Okay, admin page. So Django framework comes with inbuilt admin site. It is very good and you can modify it as you need. That's what I was trying to say. The Django is a complete Python framework. The beauty of it is it's completely Python. So you don't need to bang your head learning any other thing as far as the core concepts are concerned. So whatever you learn in the Pythons, that is more than sufficient. And Django uses CSRF. So it's a CSRF means it's a cross-site request forgery token which cannot be seen by third party. Avoid hacking of sites. So people who want to hack basically basically what they do is they try to use CSRF, or they use database injection or like kind of stuff, and Django is well equipped to handle those all things. The security wise it's very good. Okay, so that's a bit of an introduction to what is a framework, what are the frameworks we have, a bit of architecture of Django, what kind of architecture is it? So we call it as MVC or MTV framework, and why Django. And that said, let's quickly go over the Django site. So Django site has a site called Django projects. Yeah. So the minute you hit Django projects, you'll get this, the first link, the web framework for perfectionist and deadline. So if you see here, so I'll just walk you through the site for a minute. So see here, you can basically see Meet Django. Django is a high-level Python web framework that encourages rapid development and clean pragmatic design. built by experienced developers. It takes care of much of the hassles of web development. So you can focus on writing your apps without needing to reinvent the wheel. It's free and open source. Okay. So this is the most important thing. It's an open source. It's not free. It's both don't work together. This is a wrong way of writing a line, but basically it's an open source. Okay. It's ridiculously fast, reassuringly secure. That is what I call a CSR of pages. And um, uh, we talked about SQL injections and everything, and exceedingly scalable. Okay. You can learn more about it here. Okay, but we will not go there right now. Uh, so that was the overview. If you go to the download session of this, so currently, if you see, the latest version is 1.11. Okay, so but we will be going to concentrate on 1.8. The reason being very simple. I'll just show you the picture. So see this one. We got 1.8 support way back in mid of 2015. So 2015 we got our 1.8 version. So this is our 1.8 version. Okay. So the basic idea behind this is like, if you basically learn the 1.8, okay, so this is the mainstream support. So which means this is on the mainstream, and we have an extended support till 2008 first quarter, which doesn't mean that you cannot use Django after 2018. It's not that. Like, they won't be giving you some added features or something like that, which is very specific. Sometimes, like, if you want some added patches or something, so they won't come as a bundle anymore. Like, there won't be a new release after 2018 first quarter. So basically what happens is, after that you have to make sure you integrate the plugins and everything to your website. But if not, it's not always required that you have to be on the latest only. Okay. So if you see the roadmap, so this is not going to stop. So this is going to be there, and it's still going on. So they have a roadmap till 2021, which is a good thing, right? So we are nowhere stopping or anything. Okay. Now, so we are going to work on 1.8. So we got, if you see, we have a 1.9 version. So if you think 1.9 was a hit, no, it was not. So it got stopped in the first quarter of 2017 only. So this is more stable than 1.9. So if you see 1.10 also, they have stopped the extended support in 2018. And the next bigger version will be 1.11. Okay, so 1.11 may go over a very longer period of time. So then we'll have all these small updates. And again, 3.0 will be and 2.2 will be a lengthy one. So within every 2 years, they're coming with a big release. So currently, if you notice, either you learn 1.8 or you learn 1.11, either of the ways. But if not, both of them are more stable than your 1.9 and 1.10. So don't just think that this is something that will work for us. But the fun part, if you notice, if you see the versions, okay, if you see basically the versions of 1.3, the first version, if you see, like, it was in way back in 2012, or we started our Django kind of a framework way back in 2000. Okay, it's like 2010. Okay, so, or if you say, like, 2010 was the time when we first started our Django first version. Okay, so it is like good 7 years or something that we have just gone into this framework, and this has become very popular. Okay, so if you see, like, in 2012, it was 1.3, 2013, 14, and 15. If you see, like, 2015, we got 1.8. So which means it is still a growing product. It's still growing up, and it's becoming very, very popular. Okay, now you can see the roadmap here. Okay, so that's about this thing. So we'll go for some documentation, guys. So if you look into the documentation stuff, so you can get started with these tutorials or the first step. So we have a couple of topic guides, reference guides, how-to guides. You can start from here. The first step is something like, you can see a overview installation. We'll be covering most of these things one by one as we go on with our course. I'll teach you how to do that also. Then we have this modular layer and everything. Okay, so we'll talk about models, we'll talk about views, we talk about templates. These are the main things. Then we talk about forums, we talk about the development process, how do we do deployment testing and everything, exception handling. So these all we'll cover. The admin part, we have a particular thing. We may not be completely covering all the things in security, but couple of them like cross-site request forgery protection, we can do that. We have this internationalization and localization, okay, and there are a lot of other topics also that we can very well go for, and we'll be covering few of them, okay. So, but if not, Django is a huge topic, and we'll be covering whatever are needed to at least build our site. So that is the basic idea. Then we have these news areas. So the news is like we have this Django bug fixes, what are happening and everything. When was the DjangoCon? So just like PyCon, we have something called DjangoCon. So DjangoCon is one such place where you can basically go ahead and uh, you can go and see like what exactly new that Django people are talking about. Okay, we have our own community. Good thing about it. So get help with Django and following announcements. Contribute to Django. You can be part of the Django RSS feeds. Okay, so community blog posts. So okay, so there will be a lot of discussion which will be going across, and you can be part of it. Okay, Django jobs. So you can see like what are the jobs which are going across. Like Django question and answers. You can say Django, couple of Django links, and couple of news updates. Okay. Coming to the code part, see this is a staggering one. We didn't see this. Let me go back. Django community is 11,061 people with 159 countries, 3,450 packages and products. So that is a huge thing. Okay, it's growing. For the good 5 years that we have done this, it's a very good thing. Now this is something related to the code. So if you can see like what exactly are the tickets, what are reported, what are the timelines. These are the Django wiki pages. So you can see everything what is happening in the code level. One of the beauty with Django is you have a huge community support for this, and the idea behind it is that people actually do support Django projects a lot. So if you're doing any Django project, so you need not feel that you are the only one doing it across. So you have a lot of people who are actually doing the same thing. Then we have something called about. So about is this page. So about the Django software foundation. So this is the Django page. So you can walk through this a bit more. Okay, this is about our whole Django foundation. What is Django foundation? And the last one is basically your donations, uh, like who are giving what kind of donations and everything. So if you want to help them, you can very well donate them. So currently there are 134 donors. So they have done 41% of the funding already, which is good, like 82,056 pounds. Okay. So their goal is like 2 lakhs kind of a goal. So you can donate it, or it's up to you how you want to donate it. So it's a monthly donation or a one-time donation or a quarterly donation, you can do it. So it's up to you. Like if you want to do it, you can do it, or you can just move on. Okay. So we'll be doing a couple of other projects also. Okay. But this is just an overview today, what I try to give you of Django. And tomorrow, what we'll do is tomorrow we'll go ahead and we'll start setting up our systems to get started with Django. Okay. So that said, I'm very much good for the day because I don't want to start the setup part and everything today. Okay, so I just want to give you an idea like what is Django, what is a framework, what is MVC, and everything. Okay,